Hey there everyone, happy Sunday. I'm King 5 meteorologist Adam Claibon. Boy, what a hot day. It's been a lot of spots have hit the 80s and we've seen some spots hit the 90s today. And well, guess what? We're going to see a lot more of that here through the week, but we do get a bit of a break heading into the day tomorrow. A substantial cool down will be ahead for us. So we're going to talk about that forecast as we start off the work week, but we're also going to go over how it looks like for a lot of the week. Summer is going to be flexing its muscle. We'll go over that, but we're also going to go over that middle part of the week where it is expected to be the hottest and where we do have a first alert day to tell you about because of some of the heat that we're expecting into the day right there. First though, let's get into what we're seeing out there currently, which there's a lot of sunshine. You can see that pretty much covering all of the state except the extreme northeastern part of the state here, getting closer to the Canadian border up there around more BC and Alberta. Now what's going to happen for us is you can see how the clouds are moving in from west to east. Well, there's a weak impulse in the atmosphere that's going to come through. That's going to help to develop more cloud coverage, and we'll get that in place to around heading into the day on Monday, and that's going to help to keep things nice and cool. Here for today though, we saw temperatures making their way well into the 80s and quite a few 90s out there. 90 out at the airport at SeaTac, 93 in Shelton, 92 in Olympia, and 88 in Tacoma. That 90 out at SeaTac, that's the second time we've hit 90 for this year. But you also notice too, because of that west to east flow, we still have somewhat of an onshore push, so that's helping to keep some of those spots farther north relatively comfortable. Up there around Port Townsend, 82, 81 in Bellingham, Everett only getting up to 85 degrees today, and then seeing the 70s out towards the coast. Things are going to change a little bit here later on into the week, especially on Wednesday. So today, yeah, that was the hottest day. Now we are going to see things start to cool back down, and we'll see more of those temperatures back in the 70s heading into the day for Monday. Now the temps do peak heading into Wednesday, where we are expecting to see not only just maybe some low 90s, but possibly some mid 90s beginning to appear. A little more of that offshore push beginning to come back around, and that's what's really going to help to generate more of the heat. And to go along with all of that too, hotter temperatures, a little more wind, a drier air mass, less of that humidity in the air. So that elevated fire risk is something that we're going to be very aware of as we head on into the second half of the week. See a lot of that heat back in place. Here's your 7-day forecast. There it is. Tomorrow, 76 degrees cooler, and more clouds are going to be expected to be around. Now, we won't see as many clouds heading into the day on Tuesday, so that's why we start to heat back up again. Wednesday, peaking out. You can see that's the climax of the heat as we get up to 92 degrees, and then our numbers start to come back down as we head into Wednesday and then beyond Thursday, Friday, and into the weekend. It's a gradual cool down, so we're still going to be fairly warm into that point, but not going to be quite as warm as Wednesday. Port Angeles, check out the wind right there. You can see that wind coming in at about, I would say 10 to 15 miles per hour there, showing up there at the on the Strait of Juan de Fuca. And then looking at our Everett camera, you can see a bit of a shake to the camera. There are some breezy conditions, especially if you're closer to the water. So that's what's been kind of helping us to stay cooler in those two locations as opposed to right here in Seattle. This is from our King 5 rooftop camera, and you can see clear skies. There's a little wind out there, but not nearly as much, and that's why things are still well into the 80s, and we're going to drop down into those low 60s here as we head on into the night. So still a bit of a warm night in comparison to where we should normally be for this time of the year. Now, I did want to show you some of the winds and what's going on with that. You can see our wind right up this way, getting closer to areas right around Port Angeles. Yeah, we do have that wind coming in at about 14 miles per hour, but it's right off of the coast and heading through the water that you see some of those gusts up to about 20 to 30, even closer to 40 miles per hour. So that's definitely keeping things a bit cooler and providing some of the cooler air mass that we have for areas such as Whidbey Island up there near Bellingham, and even out towards the coast too, more of that onshore push, while our winds are coming more so from the north, coming for areas here closer to Puget Sound. So that brings that air mass more off of the land and keeps things just a bit cooler, or warmer, sorry, as we head on into the daytime hours, which we saw today, and it really heated up. Now, speaking of that, let's talk about temperatures right now. Where are they? They are currently in the mid to upper 80s and lower 90s, even as of about 6 to 7 o'clock here into your Sunday evening. So pretty warm stuff out there, and the eastern side of the state too has not dodged this heat. Right now at 99 in Wenatchee and 101 in Yakima. It's hot out there. Where we have dodged the heat, out towards the coast, where temperatures are currently sitting in the 60s and the 70s. Quileute at 69. Hoquiam coming in at 76. Breezy winds there in Port Angeles. That's helping us out again. We're currently sitting at 71 degrees. All right, let's continue on. We are noticing nothing showing up on radar and talked about the extra clouds across the northeastern side of the state. Well, that does come along with some showers and storms up there, mainly into Canada. For us, we're going to stay dry here for a little while, but we are seeing our flow coming in from more of the northwest. And with that area of high pressure still in pretty much control of the region, that's going to keep us quite a bit warmer and clearer here as we head on into the night. All right, so I mentioned that there's not really a whole lot happening here on this side of the state and when it comes to advisories or any sort of weather alerts, but we are noticing across the eastern side of the state that we do have the higher risk of fire danger over that way. Red flag warning starting up at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon and lasting until 11 p.m. tomorrow night. You can see all the areas shaded into that pink and fuchsia color right there. That's where we have that elevated fire risk due to some of the breezy winds that we're going to have and also some low relative humidity that's going to be in place over on that side. We also have high wind warnings and watches and wind advisories over there, helping to sort of exacerbate the issue, as well as the heat advisories, again, helping to dry out that air mass and dry out those fuels. We're talking about the vegetation and the soil and the grasses. So hopefully things stay in check over there. Now for us here, again, on this side of the state, we're just going to notice some of those clouds here into the evening, but a lot more than to come as we head past midnight. And really they start to develop as we head into tomorrow morning. Check out that marine layer that's coming in right around 4 to 5 o'clock out towards the coast. Going to be a cooler air mass again, even from some of the 70s that we saw today. We're going to cool down quite a bit out there towards the coast. We're also starting to notice some of the cloud coverage come back this way here for areas closer to Puget Sound and the I-5 corridor as well. And we'll keep a lot of them around through a good chunk of the day. So 10 a.m. still seeing a lot of them around. Now interior parts of Grays Harbor County, more Mason County, even Thurston County, by the mid-afternoon, we do start to clear out there. So that might help temperatures out and help them to rebound back up near that 80-degree mark by tomorrow afternoon. But the rest of us will see clouds again for a good chunk of the day, maybe a bit of clearing towards the tail end of the day, right around that evening rush. And then we'll head on into tomorrow night, see the clear skies, and really a lot more of those clear skies to come into the day on Tuesday, leading to the warm-up that we're going to have for the day on Tuesday. And then heading on into Tuesday night and into Wednesday, a lot more of those clear skies around and a bit more of that offshore push. Check out the winds at this point, starting to come in from west or from east to west, starting to come more so from that direction. You can see that moving through some of our Cascade gaps. That will be a key component when it comes to the heating that we're going to see heading into Wednesday and allowing things to warm up as much as what they are expected to do. So let's continue on. With that being the case, we are also going to have this ridge of high pressure really start to dominate and take more control of the area. Here we are at 2:30 heading into Wednesday afternoon. We're seeing some of that beginning to take shape, a little bit of an elongation of that bridge of high pressure. But at the same time, too, I wanted to point out what's going to be helping to maybe start to change things up for us Wednesday evening, Wednesday night. You see some of these lighter colors right here, some of the lighter oranges beginning to pop up. Those are across BC and Alberta, and that will be some troughiness starting to come back in. When you get troughs, you oftentimes get areas of low pressure, more clouds, and cooler temperatures. So that's going to try to dig its way in from northeast to southwest and make its way here across parts of western Washington as we head on into Wednesday night and into Thursday. And you can start to see a bit more of that as we make our way into that time. That will lead to somewhat of the cool down that we're going to see, albeit minor, but a cool down as we head on into Thursday and Friday and on into the end of the week. And that big ridge of high pressure, you notice how big that dark red area was for a little while and how much closer it was at that point. It is beginning to revert back and retreat back out over the Pacific and weaken to a certain degree, so that'll also help overall with the cooling process that we're going to have here by the end of the work week. Here it is, the entire work week. Monday, 76. We get up to about 92 on Wednesday. That's our first alert day. And then we cool back down into 87 on Thursday. Friday will be at 84 degrees. And continuing on from there, getting closer to average as we head on into the very end of the weekend. On the 20th, 76 degrees on that Sunday. We'll be at 77 on the 21st, and then start to climb back up into the low 80s. So beyond that point, again, no high heat really expected, but it is still going to be pretty warm, and it's still going to be very summer-like out there as, yes, again, summer continues to really flex its muscle. All right, so overnight tonight, expect those temperatures to dip down into more the mid-50s out towards those coastal areas closer to the water. And for those of us who will be farther inland into some of the interior spots where we were much warmer today, around the Kitsap Peninsula, more of Puget Sound, and even all the way up towards the Canadian border, upper 50s to low 60s for those overnight lows. And then our highs tomorrow, we're going to see those numbers top off at 72 in Blaine, 73 in Mount Vernon, Orcas Island getting up to 70 degrees, and 67 at Anacortes. Again, a pretty big difference from where we were today. Oak Harbor up to 64 degrees. We'll see a high of 72 in Arlington. Granite Falls up to 72. Linwood, it looks like the best we can do tomorrow will be around 69 degrees, and we'll be right around that 70-degree mark. In Kingston, Shoreline, 76, 73 in Issaquah with a high of 75 in Des Moines, 73 in Bremerton, and farther south here for Belfair, Tacoma, Puyallup, all in the 70s, albeit getting pretty close to the 80-degree mark in Puyallup there at 79. Farther south here along the I-5 corridor, Centralia, Castle Rock, Longview, 74, 77, and 76, respectively. Out towards the coast in the 60s and staying more into the 60s after seeing the 70s. Out this way towards Nia Bay, Forks, Quileute, Claylock, Tahola, Ocean Shores, all around the low to mid-60s. Forks a bit warmer there as you get a little farther away from the water. We'll get up to 68 degrees there in Port Angeles, getting up to 67 degrees. All right, your forecast here over the next 7-day stretch. I know you see a long stretch of some pretty warm days, which that stretch between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday probably going to be the worst of it, with Wednesday itself being a first alert day and the hottest day as we top off at 92 degrees. Would it be surprised if we had some heat alerts of some form here start to pop up from the National Weather Service as we head on into that point? So that's something to keep an eye on for as we go throughout the next few days. But again, we get the break tomorrow. Highs will fall back down into the 70s, more cloud coverage around, and then get ready for more of that heat as summer is really going to be around for us on into Tuesday and really through the rest of the work week with highs well into the 80s and seeing some 90s out there. Okay, everyone, well, take care. I hope you have the great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy this warmer and breezier weather that's going to be around here as we get ready to see the sunset and get ready for the cool down on Monday. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.